I'm going to start why games. We can consider that games are arenas for testing. We can test human behavior, we can test models, we can test what drives users, and we can test complexity. They are interactive, they foster decision making, they foster learning, and they foster something that is very important, that is thinking and learn by doing. So we think and we learn by actually doing the things that are done in the simulation context in an arena that is a game. It's not reality, but it can be close to reality. And when we play a game, we all play according to an equal set of rules, which is very important when we want to do something like participatory practices, where all the users should have the same and equal power. And the games always provide some feedback, which is something that we want in the participatory and collaborative planning process, because one of the problems of this process is that the process are done and the users and the participators do not get feedback by participating. So games always do this because they show results. When we set a game and when we end a game, we have a result that represents what happened during the gameplay. And this allows us to do evaluation systems. So they are games' unique tools. They allow us to teach and train without the negative effects of failure. Failure is a good thing in a game because it's not reality. We can test, we can experiment and learn with a failure. We can establish in the game competitive and collaborative or even mixed approaches. When we say or describe a game to someone that is not very used to the state of the art of the games, usually they say that games are competitions, but games can be collaborations. And it was this principle that we've used in UrbSecurity processes. And we can test and do simulations in engaging ways, and in planning for the sake of planning and the objectives of spatial planning, we want users in a collaborative process to have agency, that they can decide what to do in the planning situations. This is how we achieve collaboration. And in the case of urban planning, cities are, I think we can say that they are the most complex things that humans have ever created. And this obliges us or forces us to deal with complexity and decision making. And this is games are good models so users and stakeholders and citizens can understand how complex it is to deal with a city. And this can be very important for citizens to understand what's at stake and what can they do and what can they expect for a planning system. So this allows us to deal with wicked problems. What is a wicked problem? A wicked problem is a problem where there is not a perfect solution. And this happens in cities because sometimes when we try to fix something, we make problems elsewhere. And when we try to do these kinds of solutions and manage budgets, we need to take decisions into account to the positive sides and negative sides. And games allow us to explore these wicked problems and allow stakeholders and citizens to share some negative effects or that sometimes technicians and experts think that will solve their problems, but in reality, they can create other new problems. And this always also allows us to approach the spatial self-organization, because cities all cities have some kind of planning in their history, but they are a result of self-organization, especially old cities. And these kinds of decision-making allow us to see multiple perspectives of the same reality, which is very important to deal with contemporary problems. So what are games and serious games? I like this definition. This is the one that I use even when I teach about this. We can say that a game is a system in which players engage in an artificial conflict defined by rules that results in the quantifiable outcomes. So this is very technical. There's not fun nor enjoyment here in this definition. This is why you can use this more serious side of games, because games have these characteristics. What game approaches are there available for us to use? You can use gamification, that is the introduction of game elements in non-game activities. Our approach was a bit of a gamification and a bit of a serious game. And the difference is that the serious game, it's a actual game, entire game. After playing the game, the results are what we want to achieve. In our case, the results are after playing a game is a planning solution, or it is the opinion of that group of persons that work collaboratively and could find a solution to the problem at stake. So, and when we create a serious game, we always need to balance fun and the goals. And when I say fun, I'm considering fun in a broad way, because this depends on player profiles, individual profiles. Our concept of fun varies a lot from people to people, from person to person. And when we create a serious game system, we do need to do this. We did this in Leiria. We need to have a game system, create a game system where the stakeholders will take decisions. We need a game designer. It was me, the game designer. We need content experts. The content experts were the municipal colleagues, the technicians that work with me, and we need facilitators. I've done the facilitation process and train the colleagues from the municipality of Leiria to be themselves also facilitators to the sessions. So we need to have these 3 levels in 3 dimensions in the serious game. And the need to do a briefing, debriefing, and an evaluation of the process. We need to explain the game, what to do, how to evaluate. We need to evaluate during the gameplay, and we need to do a debriefing after the game and do an evaluation. What is this debriefing? We need to, after playing the game, talk with the stakeholders and try to figure out what they brought from the game, what they thought it was, and try to get some more knowledge and build a collective knowledge about what happened during the game. So we need not just to play, we need to prepare, to support the game, and to discuss and do a debriefing after the game. If we don't do this, we don't have a serious game, and it could all have been a waste of time. So this is very important. Some serious games characteristics and some problems we can face. They demand the game design knowledge to be built. They demand multidisciplinary tools and people to work with. They demand facilitation. We need to accompany players and citizens playing the games, and we can have uncertain results. Which is a problem. They demand high logistics and staff, and the simulations can be complex, and there's the prejudice about game usages. This is why many times, and the people that accompany my work see that most of the time I do not call to this process and activities games. I just say that they are interactive process. At the end of the session, I will say that they were playing some games, because this kind of prejudice is important. And most of the times after the session, when we collect data from the participants, they say that they were not expecting that the session was done like that, and they did not expect that the game could deliver any serious or any results at all. This is very common. The advantages of designing this kind of games is that they demand less replayability, they demand less game design concerns when playing these games, because they usually are meant to be played just one time. And when we are facilitators during the game sessions, they can adapt the complexity and adapt to the needs and behaviors of the participants. This is why they are done in analog ways. It's more easy to do this and to adapt in real time. And the debriefing can produce valuable insights. This is why we film and collect data from the debriefing process. And of course, analog games can be cheaper to adapt and cheaper to use. And this is why we use them in a very simple and practical way. What distinguishes analog games? They don't have automation systems. They do not have them because they only function if the participants activate the system themselves, if they have agency. which is perfect for our participatory and collaborative process because we want the citizens to be in charge of the decision making. They have physical components to manage and maneuver. We know that we are fascinated by touching and moving objects. This is something that is very common to our species. And they allow face-to-face interaction, which is a problem in the pandemics, but this is very important to build empathy and to build collaboration and trust when people can see each other's. The possibility to create conflicts is much lower in when we are face to face. And they have transparent game systems. They don't have the black boxes from the algorithms and from the artificial intelligence. Everybody can see how the game and the system works. It doesn't hide anything. And the rules are codified for direct human interaction, which is what we want. And these kinds of games allow us to pause and adapt to the players into the context, and they allow us to explore multiple forms of communications, and they always demand some level of collaboration. For example, giving the money, giving the pieces to another player from end to end is a kind of a collaboration that foster the collaboration that we want from the result of the game. And the fact that they are analog, they help participants to plan. This happens a lot when, for example, we can separate and divide the coins that we have in the game like this, and can divide the coins to do this, and next time those coins do that, and we can do this in a tangible way, dividing the components to every need that we can find at the moment or in the future. This is a very tangible way to help planning and making a decision. And then they foster collaborative learning, because sometimes some users and some participants do not understand the rules of the game at the first time, and the other participants can teach them the game, which fosters empathy among users. So what did we do in urban security? This was a theoretical approach. First, we divide this in 3 stages. We do an ice-breaking exercises and focus on the project issues. This allows us to increase the knowledge of the participants, the collaboration, and allow them to start making decisions. Then from the first insights, we explore in the second stage other forms of communication and interactions. This allows to framing the problems and the solutions, allow us to explore graphic expressions with maps of the sites, of the zones that we chose to work with. And it was important to consolidate previous decisions. It was important for the participants to consolidate what they discussed in the stage 1. And the final stage was stage 3, where I've created a game-based collaborative decision-making tool that resulted from the stage 2 and 3. So the decisions that were the options for the third game came from the step 1 and 2. What created? This created a sense that the game was part of the participants, because no one ever considered that the options in the third game make no sense, because they resulted from what the participants have decided in the previous steps. So the game was part of their own, the result of their own choices. And this is very important in these cases when we build a game and do not consider the participants. They tend to not to consider that solution is their solution. This is important, to co-create with them. The implementation. We've done a training session for the municipal civil workers to be the facilitators during the serious game sessions. The serious game sessions occur for each of the case study zones. Each session had from 6 to 24 participants, more or less with tables of 6 participants each. And with the pandemic aggravation, we were forced to do some online sessions and to reduce the number of participants on each sessions, with what made us created more sessions and not the sessions with as many participants as we've created in the beginning. And These allow to continuously gather data. This is some pictures of the first. This is stage 2 here, but it's stage 1. It's a mistake. This is stage 1, ice breaking. We've used several games to frame the questions, to frame the problems. So the participants would start discussing with creative games and collaborative games. They started to frame the problems of the zones. And then this is also the stage 1, not stage 2. This was part of the ideation process. At the end, they choose the most the problems that they voted as the most important, and then they started to create some solutions, and then they voted on the solutions that they found that could deal with the problems that they defined. So this allowed them to see multiple perspectives of the security and to create a collaborative ideation process. This is the second stage, now it's correct, when we define new ways to express ideas. And here we used storytelling games and drawing games where the participants draw in a kind of a game system where there's kind of a trader that does not know the information, and they all are trying to express the information and without telling everything, which allows multiple interpretations and the rise and creation of new ideas in new visions of the same problems. And this was done with some mechanisms of games. So the game was not built yet, but we used games to build the game. Something strange, but it's a method that I want to develop in the near future, publish an article about this, and is related to my PhD thesis. In the online process, we've used also some games, and use these games to establish the collaboration discussion and to create some kind of process where the participants could share information in an equal way. So they had all the same opportunities and no one dominated the conversations, and we could collect data from these game sessions. This is the third part where the game was actually built. You can see in the top, the black table, the options where the participants could spend collective money. That was kind of a vote. Money in this case was the metaphor for votes to create a solution. In the first image, we can see they are putting cubes of colors to identify problems according as a table. In the second table, they are spending money to solve the problems, and the solutions that they have come from stage 1 and stage 2. For example, transport lines, some kind of police surveillance, video surveillance, social programs, welfare programs, new parks, new cycleways, something like that. You can see here some of the solutions, and they need to spend some money that they get from time to time to spend the money and to choose where to put things in the map, and we can see some patterns that emerge in the zones. And you can see the results again in another session, and we can see the spaces where the police was needed, the spaces where to build new social and welfare buildings, the places to rebuild and renew the urban fabric, places to create parks, some places to do immaterial actions, like, for example, fostering welfare social programs, to increase some civic programs for teenagers and something like that. And you can see in yellow the local line for buses, some examples. And there's another solution here, another example. We can see some zones that were identified to become only available for pedestrians, remove of the cars, but at the same time reinforcing the public transportation. You can see some places where it was important to have police officers at the site, some places to organize the parking of the cars, some new parks to create a sense of community interactions, can see a lot of results, and all these sessions were accompanied with the forms that the users were filling to collect data, so we can analyze this data before. This is another example. I've used the same process in Viana do Castelo. It's a city in the north of Portugal, where I changed the map and used the same system, and it proved it could work in another cities, in another zones. And of course, the solutions are not perfect for this place because they resulted from local reality, and this proves that we need to consider these first steps of co-creation to identify the solutions for the decision, the final decision-making process. It is important. And this is another picture where I've taken this game to the students of the Polytechnic of Leiria that worked on this one of these zones also, proving that this can be a tool for teaching and to learn about urban planning and collaborative planning and urban security. So I want to thank you. I think I was maybe too long, I don't know. I have a YouTube channel about this, but it's in Portuguese, and you can contact me if you want something more information. I have some published papers about this and some ongoing work, so I can collaborate